Good morning, good morning, good morning. You know what today is? It's Monday Morning Chats with Zach, and Zach is me. I hope that you guys had a good weekend. I had a good weekend, got a chance to go to Philly to see some of my cousins, got a chance to go to one of my favorite steak places, Jim's West. I grew up around that area. So it was cool to be home for a short second. And my Eagles won. So of course that just makes it an overall great weekend. And it's October. October is my favorite month of the year because it's my birthday. My birthday is October 17th, so I have 15 more days. Um, this past year, I can honestly say that it was a year of forgiveness. It was a year of healing. It was a year of self-awareness. And I just know that for this upcoming year that I will get the desires of my heart, right? I've been getting them, but I'll get even more. And I look forward to blessing more people. This past year, I made it my business to try to bless as many students as possible with helping them secure internships, clerkships, and I was able to do that. And it feels amazing. Now I'm challenging myself of getting more students, clerkships, and more internships. So I got about 11 or 12 this past year. But this upcoming year, I wanted to be 24 or 30, right? I wanted to be more than what I did last year. But this year has been great. Again, there's been a lot of reflection. I was talking to my therapist last week, and beginning of our sessions, I wrote down things that I wanted to accomplish, right? And I talked to her and I said, hey, I just want to hold myself accountable. And I just want to make sure that I'm doing everything that I said I'm going to do. And she was like, girl, if you wasn't, I would have let you know. Trust me. And one of the things that we talked about, she was like, girl, you surpassed that. She said, here's one thing I want you to work on. So she told me, she said, I want you to create a family tree. And she said, I want you to list the people in your family. But when you list these people in your family, I want you to write out what are the good fruits of them and what are the bad fruits. And the good fruits pretty much gives you details about the good traits of this person. The bad fruits are not the not so good traits of the person because it allows you to see who you are. And it allows you to ask yourself, do I have a lot of bad fruits that I need to take care of? And if so, what am I doing to make these changes, right? So if I had to label this along with things that I've been talking to God about, it would be who's your wise counsel, right? Who's your wise counsel? So this past Friday, I got a chance to link up with one of my girlfriends that I would run into her while I'm at the gym. So I'm on the treadmill, like, hey girl, like we need to catch up. And we finally was able to catch up. And it was just such a great space to be in her presence, right? And we talked about all type of things, how we can make money together. I'm always trying to secure a bag. And she's like, Sakina, you need to do this. Like, you can make money with this. But it's something about talking to my friends that are therapists. It's just a different conversation. And we always talk about mental health. It always comes about. And that is something that I enjoy having those conversations. And even Monday, this past Monday, I got a chance to link up with my cousin and we had crabs. Again, always trying to figure out how mental health is coming into play. And I'm always making sure that if I love you, I want to make sure that your mental health is intact. But this past Friday, when I met with my girlfriend, we had a late lunch because I went to the hairdresser. As you can see, my hair is black. I don't have the gray on the side because I dyed it. But we went to Belvedere Square. And so if you're from the Baltimore area, you should definitely try it out. Or if you're new to the Baltimore area, you should definitely try it out. Belvedere Square is pretty much a place that has different restaurants inside. I like going, I don't know the name of the place, but I just know what they sell. And they make these amazing salmon BLT sandwiches. Now, I don't eat beef. I don't eat beef or pork. So when I get my salmon BLT, I get avocado instead of bacon. And when I say this smoked salmon is so good, it's amazing. And if you get it on rye, it's even better. So we're just talking about just updates in life, and we're just talking about the things that we have learned. She's engaged. She's getting married next year. So I'm just talking to her about that. Like, hey, girl, I'm super excited for you. How do you feel? And we're just talking about all these things. And we talked about the things that we learned. And we talked about the things that we talked to our therapist about. And the one thing that we did talk about is, you know, do you display good fruit or bad fruit? And if so, do you display both? And where are you getting these from? Most times when we do things, right, whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, sometimes we don't even know why we're doing it. But if you really dig deep and you look at your family line, you'll be able to see where you're picking up some of these habits. I think one of the thing that I appreciate God for the most is being able to host family reunions. And when I'm hosting family reunions, that requires me to reach out to family and tell them about the reunion. And even if they're new family members, getting a chance to know who they are and to figure out how we're related. I found most of my family on Facebook, on my father's maternal side. And so just seeing the common last name, like, hey, I think they may be related to me, sending out messages to them. And I'm like, hey, you may not know me, but this is my grandfather. My grandfather moved from North Carolina at an early age and raised his family in New Jersey. Even though he's deceased, this is what I know about the family. And it so happened at the time I was connecting with family members. So that started in 2015. And now I have a relationship with most of the people that I've met, and I've been keeping in contact with them via social media, or sometimes we just pick up the phone and just call each other. But by me really knowing my family or having an understanding, I was able to see the traits that they have, right? I was able to pay attention to the secrets that family has, right? You know, how many children did this woman actually have? And how many did she have by her husband, right? Was there any infidelities, right? Did my family members stay married for a long time? Did they believe in monogamy? Because I do. Did they believe in mental health, right? Did they believe in going to therapy? And to be honest with you, if you're talking about someone that was raised in the 60s, 40s or so, that wasn't a big deal. And then because of that, how did that all play out, right? I wanted to understand, how did my grandmother and her first cousins, how did they raise their kids? On my grandfather's side, right? How did my great aunts and great great aunts, how did they raise their kids? What was his idea of love? What did that look like? Did love mean that it was based on actions, or was it based on what people said, right? Sometimes it was both, sometimes it was one or the other. I wanted to understand those things. I wanted to understand who were the alcoholics in the family, right? Who were the drug abusers? And once I start understanding that, I'm like, okay, well, was their parents on drugs, or was their parents substance abusers? Like, I want to understand these things, because the things that we do, it's a habit. I'm pretty sure it happened. If you look back, I'm pretty sure someone actually did it, and you're not the first one. So we really start talking about these things and how they come into play. And then you got to ask yourself, well, am I bearing bad fruit, right? I may have some good fruit. Can I acknowledge that? Can I identify it? But what are the bad fruits that I have? And those bad fruits is requiring you to become self-aware and say, hey, these are some traits that I have, and I need to make a change on this. The unfortunate thing is that sometimes when we know the things that we need to change, but sometimes we look the other way, because change requires you to work, right? So there's something that you need to change that requires you to work. But why work when you can just be complacent? Why work when you're able to say, you know what? I don't need to change. I'm fine, right? You're fine by yourself, But when you are in connections with several people, maybe they don't like being around you. And so we started talking about these things. We started talking about, like, what does healthy love look like? And were you able to see that growing up? And if not, are you able to create it for yourself? Do you have an idea of what it looks like? Are you able to see other families, right? Did you get other examples that were outside your family that was able to show you what healthy love looks like? I am so grateful that I went to law school in Lansing, Michigan, right? This is something most people don't know about me. So when I was in high school, I was never the girl that said, hey, I can't wait till I get married so I can have this picket fence and I can have all these kids. No. I was the girl that said, I'm smart. I know I can make money. At an early age, I sold candy. So I knew how to hustle. Like, I knew how to get money the legal way, right? And I never had that dream of getting married, right? As a child, I never had that dream. And only because I did not see, in my opinion, what healthy love looked like. The love that I was shown was not healthy. And so I said that, God, if that is love, I don't want it, right? That looks toxic as hell, and I don't want that at all. So for me growing up at an early age, I just said, hey, that's just not what I want. I just rather just make a lot of money and just live my life. But it wasn't until I had a relationship with Christ, right? And I really didn't establish that relationship with Christ honestly, until I got to college, right? I was introduced to Christ at an early age, got baptized when I was like 8 years old, went to Sunday school and all those things. But for me, at that time, it wasn't enough. I needed to see more, right? And as a kid, I thought as a kid, right? But when I became an adult, I put away childish things and I started to reason like an adult. And my idea of love was so small because I didn't have that many examples, right? So what I was able to see, honestly, it wasn't enough. But it wasn't until I went to college and I started going back to church. My best friend introduced me to her church. And it got to the point that every time that we came home for the weekend, we went to church. And even though I had a car, she would pick me up every Sunday that we went home to go to church, drive me back to my house and go back to church. And her church was like 30 minutes away from our house because we lived near each other. And once I started to get the hang of church, I was like, I need to stay here, right? I need to be here, right? It's a good feeling. And I remember when I decided to become a member of my church. It was called Nazareth Baptist Church in South Philly. And I remember I became a member, and my best friend's mom, she walked me to the altar because I wanted to become a member. And that was a big deal for me because I didn't have anybody pressuring me. I didn't have nobody telling me why I should do it. I did it on my own. And it was just like, wow, like I have something to really call my own, considering that growing up, we moved around a lot. So I was like, for me to just have a place that I call home was everything. And so it started this idea of, hey, I need more of God, right? I started to yearn for him when I was in high school, but I just didn't have a church home at the time. In college, started going to church, had a church home. But when I went to law school, that set the trajectory for me I'm able to see what healthy love looks like. I really love the relationship with my first lady and my pastor, Pastor Gibson, and First Lady Gibson, Tasha Gibson, Pilgrim Rest Baptist Church. That church saved my life. I rededicated my life to Christ by going to that church. And I get emotional, just saying that because that church saved me. And from that church, I've learned so many things that when I look back over my life, I'm like, dang, I'm able to identify some of the bad traits in my family. And it doesn't mean that they're bad, right? It doesn't mean that they're bad people, but it's just a matter of, hey, I'm able to recognize this, but I want to do better, right? I actually want to do better. And so as we're having this conversation, me and my girlfriend, and we're talking about these bad traits or these bad fruits, we're like, okay, what can we do to become better, right? What can we do to become better? We're able to see it, we're able to identify it, but what can we do to be better? And I think one of the most transformative things that I've done over the last almost 4 years was to go to therapy. But this therapy was different this year because I got a chance to read Brene Brown's work and really understand what vulnerability is and check myself and say, hey, even though I wasn't taught that, I can actually be this and I can actually become that. So there's been times throughout my life where I was vulnerable, but I think that in this year, I've been the most vulnerable. And I didn't care what people had to say. I didn't care what you had to think about it. I just didn't care, right? And so I just want you to look back over your life and look back over your family, what you have learned, whether it was implied, what are things that you learned that you're able to say now, hey, I don't think this is good. And who are the examples that you can look up to and say, hey, maybe I don't have a good example in my immediate family, but you are someone that I look up to. What can I learn? And so this idea of wise counsel is, for me, is who's holding me accountable, right? If I'm saying these things that, hey, I need to change, I need to do this and do that, who's saying, Sakina, so when are you going to start? Hey, you said you're going to do this, but you're not doing it, right? Like, are you really holding yourself accountable? Are you saying the things that you're really going to do, or you're just saying it because it sounds good? And so when I started talking to her about my wise counsel, there's a few people that came to mind. My brother, right? My brother Keenan. He's almost 3 years younger than me. And he's like a big brother to me, which is crazy. And he is someone that knows me the most. I can tell him anything, right? That is my best friend. And he's a type where we're both assertive. He's a little, he's very serious. And so sometimes when I like to take a joke, he's like, no, I'm not laughing. I'm not playing. But he's the person that I go to where when I need wise counsel, right? Whether it's about relationships, whether it's about life, like we're able to counsel each other on these things. But the thing that I love the most is that we got a chance to experience life. Like he traveled more than me, and he played sports, and he had great men in his life that he was able to look up to, and they were able to pour into him. And he teach me those things that his coaches and other men in his life taught him, and he's teaching me, right? He has a lot of friends that are married. He has a lot of mentors that are married. And those are some of the things that we share in common. And so we're able to talk about those things, what we learn from them, the good things that we learn, the things that we should do, the things that we shouldn't do, and try to figure out what is best for us. But I go to him for wise counsel because I want to make sure that I'm holding myself accountable, right? He's the type of person where he will let me know, he will call me out and say, no, this ain't it, right? This is not it. The next person I go to for wise counsel is one of my dear best friends. He's also a Kappa. His name is Anton. He keeps it real with me. I think he knows more about my personal life than any of my other female best friends. Why he is very non-judgmental, he's brutally honest. Well, not brutally honest, I hate to say that, but he's very honest with me. And he gives me sound advice, which I need. And then it comes to my cousin, Frank, he's my older cousin. He's also like a big brother to me. I go to him. We talk about how to create healthy families and how to build our families, right? And how we're able to pour into our families. And we're always the ones talking about family and bringing family together. That's some of the commonalities that we share amongst other things. But we're always talking about that. But he's a person, he's been married for, I think, 18 years. He's been married for a long time. And I go to him for wise counsel, like, hey, I'm struggling with this. I need help with this. And I know that he will give me sound advice. And then as a woman, most likely my therapist, sometimes some of my friends, it depends, but my therapist, I go to my therapist for sound advice. Because my goal is I want to make sure that my thinking is right. And once my thinking is right, the things that come out of my mouth is right. Out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. And so Pastor Battle, my pastor, he's talking about what's going on in your head. And so he talks about how the mind and the heart is connected, right? Right. So you think about these things, you speak it, but these come out of your heart, come to your mind, and come out of your mouth. So I want to make sure that I'm mentally well. So it's important for me to have a therapist that makes sure that I am acting the way that I want to act in a healthy manner. And this is a person that checks me. And so the question is, who checks you? Who's holding you accountable, right? I believe that if you're around friends and they allow you to do messed up stuff, you should question that friendship. I don't want friends that allow me to do messed up things. I don't want some friends that support my mess, right? I want friends that call me out on my mess. So who are your friends? Do they support your mess, or are they holding you accountable? Because if they support your mess, how can you grow, right? I'm really big on, iron sharpen iron. And if you're the only friend in your group that's doing something, if you're that friend that allows someone to just sit in their mess and you don't say anything, it's like you accept it. So who's your wise counsel? Who's sharpening you? Everyone needs to be sharpened. So who's sharpening you? Who is that person, right? And above all, of course, before I go to any human being, I have to go to God for wise counsel. He is my source. I need him every day. I am nothing without him. I share this with my friends, and I tell them that, hey, for me, I need church, right? I need to be in the sanctuary. Like, I can't go if I'm out of town or I'm not feeling well, but I need church. And I don't just need church on Sunday. I need it throughout the week. So I listen to sermons to help me, right? To help me think better, to figure out principles I need to stand on, right? There's principles that I stand on, but listening to other pastors and reading scripture, it allows me principles to stand on, right? Because I want to make sure that I'm doing things that serve God, right? If I'm doing things that serve God, I got to be mindful of who's my wise counsel, because one, they have to believe in God, right? And I need to make sure that what they're saying aligns with the word, and it does. And so I just hope and pray that you find your wise counsel, whoever that may be. I hope that you find someone that holds you accountable for things, because how can we grow if we're not being held accountable for our own mess? So I want you to look at your good fruit, but also look at your bad fruit, and look at your family members and see who you got it from. And are you able to break that curse right now? Are you able to say, the bad fruit stops with me? Because I want to make sure that my children and my children's children don't develop bad habits of my family. It starts with you. So I just hope that you make the decision today to say, hey, you know what? Maybe this is a bad fruit, but it stops here. It is Monday. So I'd like to shout out to all the dope men out there. You are amazing. You are great. You are phenomenal. I just hope that you just never forget that. Just never forget that at all. To everybody else, you are great. I hope that you're mindful of the things that you say about yourself, because self-talk is real. I hope that you tell yourself that you are great, you are amazing. And even though I am saying this, I hope that you feel this way about yourself, right? It's easy for people to pour into you, but what are you pouring into your own self? What are you pouring into your own self? It's cool to pour into everybody else, but it doesn't make sense if you're pouring into everybody else and you are depleted. I hope that you constantly fill yourself up with love, with grace, but most importantly, forgiveness. Thank you guys, and take care, and happy Monday.